Well, joining us live now is Curtin University's Dean of Global Futures, Joe Siracusa. Joe, good to see you. The first televised presidential debate between President Joe Biden and Donald Trump is this week, and you'll be able to watch that here on Sky News. How do you think it will go, Joe? Apparently, President Biden has disappeared behind closed doors to prepare for it.
Good morning, Kenny. Well, look, it should be a terrific television, as a matter of fact. You know, it's 90 minutes, no notes, no aides, no audience, mute microphone when you're not talking. And so this is an opportunity for the former Vice President Trump and the current Vice President to go toe-to-toe, and for the American people to make a decision. I think the last time they were together, about 70 million people watched. So this thing is this is as big as the Superbowl. This is sort of Grumpy Men 2, Mary's Rocky Balboa, you know, and of course all the pundits are saying that President Trump will go after the man's mental ability, and I think Biden will go after Trump's character. He'll call him a felon or something. But I'll tell you what, this thing will degenerate very quickly. I think both of these guys would like a knockout blow. They're not going to go the whole 15 rounds. They're going to just go at each other. And I think Trump, of course, who is unfettered and unrestrained, will say what he wants. And President Biden, who doesn't have his minders there, will have to go do by himself. And of course, you've seen President Biden from time to time just drift. You know, if he goes catatonic on that screen for 10 seconds, that will be the end of his presidential run. I mean, the Democratic Party will dump him on by Friday afternoon. So, look, it's going to be a lot of fun, and American people will be watching. Now, we are told that that small percentage of Americans who will make up the difference in the polls will be taking much away from this. But I want your audience to understand that if an election sometimes is too close to call, doesn't mean it can't be a landslide or a breakaway. You know, in 1980, Reagan and Carter were toss-up on the night of the election. And next morning, I think Reagan had about 48 states. He slaughtered Carter. I mean, sometimes when it's too close to call, it just means that when it breaks at the last minute, you don't know which way it's going to go. So yeah. I think Biden was crazy to give Trump this opportunity, and Trump was smart as hell to grab it as soon as he could.
Right. To the UK now, Joe, and Nigel Farage was branded an appeaser after suggesting the West provoked Vladimir Putin into invading Ukraine. The Reform UK boss says we provoked this war, citing an expansion of NATO and the European Union eastwards. What do you make of his comments?
Oh, look, a lot of good people, including former diplomat George Kennan, Francois Mitterrand, and even the current ambassador to China right now, all predicted that the expansion of NATO would put tremendous pressure on the former Soviet Union to respond. President Putin made it clear from 2007 with his conversation at the security talks in Munich that the NATO expansion was unacceptable, and he made it very clear in the run-up to this invasion, or whatever he wants to call it. He said that he would not tolerate Ukraine in NATO, and he wouldn't tolerate advanced weapons systems on his border. And let me tell you, Kenny, the Russians had tanks on the Niagara border across New York, or the Chinese had tanks across El Paso on the Rio Grande River, we'd be at war by 6 o'clock this afternoon. So in that sense, Farage is absolutely correct. Joe Biden should have been able to do what John Kennedy did with Nikita Khrushchev when the balance of nuclear terror was shifting. Should have been able to call up Putin and say, look, NATO's not going into Ukraine, and that there will be no advanced weapons systems at the border. In that sense, he's absolutely correct. But right now, NATO is so much into, or at least the people who are pro-Ukrainian in Europe, they're so far into this, they forgot how the hell this thing started. But I'll tell you what, it's not going to end well.
Okay. Joe Siracusa, thanks so much for your time. Speak soon.